Hi guys, I'm Elhanan and welcome to Gameful Heroes podcast. Today we're hosting Ziv Lavee straight from Copenhagen, Denmark. Hi Ziv.
Hey, great to be here again.
Yeah, it's really cool.
3,000 kilometers away. With
Yeah, but you
lovely.
you seems very close, and I actually even can see the beautiful Copenhagen from the
Yeah,
video
this is
live
just the
streaming.
view from the balcony.
Our
It's
audience
what?
can't see it, but I rest
Okay,
assured it's
yeah,
really cool. Okay, so
yeah,
today we want to talk about gaming. We can start with Wolfenstein. You know, Wolfenstein, the game, the
yeah.
alternative reality, the concept,
I,
the product, the game.
yeah. I think it was just a series of events that started with one of our top designer in the company coming up and say to me, "Hey, Ziv, do you know about this book about the guys who made Doom? You didn't know about it, so got it on Audible." And it was an amazing journey to the memory lane. I was just a kid when that game came out. Either it's Wolfenstein, Doom, Keen, all of that, and I was only a user. I wasn't aware of what's going on underneath, and it's a really interesting story of how the gaming industry basically
Evolved.
uh, evolved. Yeah, they had
Yeah.
games like Doom and Wolfenstein were definitely milestones that changed the whole industry afterwards, and Wolfenstein in particular because it was
Yeah,
on a different level.
I recall myself back then, many years ago, playing Wolfenstein like for hours in the night, just seeing all the time the Nazis soldiers and trying to hit them, try to escape the terrifying dogs and to loot whatever I could. It was really
Yeah,
amazing experience. Although it was like not so graphically enhanced or not good fidelity, it felt like you're in you have to escape, and it really was
yeah.
like an immersion, really a strong sense of immersion within the Wolfenstein game in the first game.
Yeah, it was quite immersive, which is a very, I mean, you would spend, as you say, in the middle of the night going through this 3D environment, and at any moment something can jump behind you, and when you shoot it, you get all the visual effects that they could do at that period of time.
Yeah,
That game actually had a lot of criticism about the gore that it had. It definitely jump-started a new style of more graphical and grotesque visual. People
yeah.
getting shot, bleeding, shooting dogs. That was also, I mean, I have to admit, as a dog lover, I'm not really sure how I sort of coped with
Yeah.
killing the dogs in Wolfenstein, but somehow that's the only situation when I felt okay with it. I actually left a German Shepherd in Israel, so now right now I'm very sensitive about German
Yeah, I
Shepherds.
know.
But yeah, but it was I'm Walking Dead when I had to kill a dog in the second game. I was quite devastated, and Wolfenstein haven't had that kind of sensation. The
Yeah.
game was banned in Germany,
Mhm.
and if you go to the game center in Berlin, they literally say the first game to be a first-person shooter is Doom. Wolfenstein is literally
Yeah.
erased.
Mhm.
We can see kind of like what happened with the recent shooting in the US again. Like it feels like every time we talk about it, a few weeks behind, that people back then also blamed the shooting that had been happening on games like Doom and
Oh
Wolfenstein.
yeah, we're going back to the first-person shooter. It was one of the first game that you were in the perspective of first-person shooter, using guns, switching guns, leveling up by taking the gun. First, it was if I recall, it was like a pistol, and then you upgrade your tools and weapons as you proceed in the
Yeah,
game to machine guns. And the question of violence is still live and kicking. Donald Trump and all the American administration talking about effect of violence game or on the violence and aggression among teens and about the mass shooting. We know from researchers that it's bubbles in the air. It's not.
it's absolutely rubbish, and
Yeah.
I really hope that eventually people would stop, poking the same unproved cause and focus on things that are really relevant. Because where I live at the moment, people play very violent video games, and
We're
they
talking
don't
about
have that.
Denmark, Copenhagen, right? About Denmark, yeah, violent games like
Yeah,
Halo, like Call of Duty, or like,
Yeah, I mean, actually, our company has a Counter-Strike team that
Counter-Strike,
competes
okay.
professionally.
Yeah, wow, cool.
Yeah, the other day we had the streaming of the Counter-Strike championship or something.
Yeah.
There is actually a Danish team that is like very famous in the world. They have
Yeah, there
there
was,
was
I think there was something in Germany, in Berlin, or there was a competition. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it was CSGO and also some kind of competition tournament all the time. I mean, this is just amazing, the
yeah
sport. But I think for the sake of the thing, it was really the first time that you can, shoot somebody to do a headshot, to kill somebody in the face, and you have all the blood spread and all that. Although there were pixels, it's only pixels, but still it was like, it's an enjoyment that you control the game. I think the game was one of the first that introduced the term agency, gamer agency, in which you can do
yeah
almost whatever you do. Although you are limited within the game, but still you have a lot of power, you have a lot of decision to make. As you go on the fly, you can do a lot of stuff. Yeah, and the industry came a long way since then. From
yeah
Wolfenstein to Fortnite and
yeah.
Call of Duty and whatever.
And I would just recommend, I mean, to read this book and to learn about it, even if you're not into these specific.
Yeah, which book? Can you repeat it? Because I hear you.
Masters of Doom.
Masters of Doom. The book is a recommendation. Yeah. What can you say about the book in one sentence?
Yeah, not to put so many spoilers, but
yeah.
if you're not, if you were back in the 90s playing different games and were excited about arcade style, then you definitely should read it, because it will reveal a universe that you were not aware of, like literally a parallel universe. For people who are not into games and want to know a little more about where this genre comes from, or what are people dealing with it? Because I can say this, the people involved creating Doom, they were not people that I would sit next to them in class, I would think that they were psychotic, because they were extremely different, very creative. They had their own drive about doing stuff. These people, when you read about what they did and what brought them to create games, if I sat next to them in classroom, then I would think they are psychotic, but they're very creative. They have their own view of the world. And they brought a literal revolution into the gaming industry, and they just wanted to make good things and cool things, and they actually did it.
Okay. We'll not do any spoiler to them, but Masters of Doom is recommended. It's a book about all the phenomena for first-person shooter and stuff. Let's talk about Wolfenstein. What can we learn from games, and what can a game teach us about the history, a real event in history? And Wolfenstein, I think we discussed this before, but it's very interesting. The last Wolfenstein, taking into account all the hardware and graphical, all the fidelity, enhancement, 3D.
Yeah.
We will go to 4K, I think, in the really near future. But still, from point of view of the story, of the narrative, interesting point about Wolfenstein. Actually, it is banned to play Wolfenstein in Israel currently, in multiplayer, right? You can't play it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I haven't heard that particular news. I'm sorry that I don't follow. But
because it portrays, you can play Nazi, or you can play, you can choose which side you can play. I think it's not appearing on the Steam. It's not. You can't buy it. I mean, you can buy it, to do hacking and buy it from,
Yeah, you can
hack
get
your IP
other...
or whatever. But officially, it's not distributed. It's regulated. I think it's regulated in Israel. You can play it because it suggests alternative reality. I mean, the last Wolfenstein, we play a different scenario of history in which the Nazis have conquered, won, and ruled the world. We can, I think, either be Nazis or I can be the resistance or whatever.
Yeah.
So, what would happen if we talk about it? What would happen if?
When I was a teenager, I was quite fascinated with the whole World War II stuff and Nazis and so on, because it was somewhat a taboo in some way. I mean, when we talk about, there's the famous sentence in Hebrew. Whenever time you mention the word Hitler, you say that Imach Shmo Vezichro basically means may he be forgotten forever.
Something that's happening this day in Israel. the Ministry of Education decided to ban the use of smartphone and tablet in class, elementary school. Maybe it will go also for the middle school. And from my point of view, it's games like Wolfenstein, for example. You can live alternative realities. You can be somebody else. You can try something else. You can do simulation, and it broaden your horizon. And by banning use of technology, not to mention games, it will be a lost generation. From my point of view, I recall that Illinois University published a new project in which middle school students will build in Minecraft several Earths to solve the big problems of the Earth using computational tools and whatever. So they're taking down to middle school and even to elementary school using Minecraft into school. They invest there around $3 million in this 2 years project. So from the United States point of view, from Illinois University, it's really cool. For Israel, for the Israeli kids, let's say elementary school kids, prospects are not so good. They are not leveling up, they are leveling down. This podcast episode is brought to you by Juloot Interactive, gamification and gaming consultancy agency. Start Play Your Life. What do you think about Wolfenstein as a possibility of exploring, the worst thing that you can think of, that, let's say, Hitler is a successor, ruling the world?
I think I would start. I think I would start actually by a couple of examples, and this is just a snapshot. One snapshot is Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which came in 2001, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
A year after that came a game that also dealt with Second World War, and in some ways it is more historically accurate, named Medal of Honor.
Yeah, and Medal of Honor, right.
And Wolfenstein was actually more immersive and gave me a sensation of real decisions or real impact on the world that I'm playing at, and better understanding of that world, because as opposed to the Germans in Medal of Honor that spoke German and I couldn't understand a word, I had Germans in Wolfenstein speaking English, but in a German accent.
Yeah.
And they were, in some way, they were regular people, but they were regular people doing horrible things. What you saw was that in Medal of Honor, they would speak German and we wouldn't understand a word, and subtext, they would say the same sentences over and over.
Yeah.
And then you have the Germans in Wolfenstein speaking English in a German accent. And you would see that these people, and we're talking about like hardcore SS or people that are quite nasty and cruel and everything. They sometimes would speak like normal people about regular soldier stuff, about not having hot water or missing their wives or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would put Holocaust survivors aside and maybe the first generation, but our generation, I think the most important thing that we have to learn from the Second World War is that these were normal people. These were normal people that went to work, that had families, that went to movies, that had love, and their day job was horrific, was cruel, was evil.
Yeah.
Playing this situation, like imagine yourself being just like Schindler, being a party member, being a party member, and going to those great galas and meeting up. I mean, if you were a party member, you would be respected and loved and everything. And if you were not, then you would end up beaten in the street.
Yeah,
I think that is a very strong lesson. This is a very strong experience. I would think that it gives you, if properly guided, it would give you a good perspective. I think like in everything that you're, any sort of art or literature or play that you are exposed to, you need, if you don't know the context, you should know the context, because otherwise you don't really understand the context of what was happening, why things happen, and how it would be. And experiencing it's especially in a game, it can be a very powerful tool.
Yeah, the main goal of game is fun and enjoyment. even though there's a lot of mission and challenges and taking different perspective and being another avatar is really cool. But let's ask our audience, what do you think? Giving the option to play different realities, are you for it? Is it good for, to be enlightened man, or is it confusing and maybe lead to misconceptions about the real life reality and history? This is a big question. This is really interesting because we know there's a conflict and tensions between the game developers, the game companies, the audience itself, the governments, the regulators. The issue of portraying an history in video games is very, how do you say?
Controversial, I would say.
Controversial, yeah, and there's a lot of opinions here and there, and there's a lot of conflict interest between the players involved, even the fan communities.
Basically, as a person that is interested in games both in a scientific way and also as a gamer, I was quite shocked about the recent appearance of WoW Classic and how it was perceived. And when I talk WoW Classic, I mean it's the World of Warcraft as it was when it was launched in 2004. It's
this is amazing.
Code, same game style,
returning in time, like you say. Okay, living again. Yeah.
Now, I was actually under the concept that and it's only going for 2 weeks, but I was under the impression that it would be
just a gimmick?
A flop. I thought it would have been a flop because today, with how the game is running in the retail version, it's so fast-paced and everything is so immediate gratification that nobody would have the patience to go out and start killing 50 wolves to get 2 thieves. And I'm not joking. That's pretty much how you get the quest.
Yeah.
For some reason, you go out into a zone with vicious wolves that apparently have no teeth. So I don't know how vicious they are.
Yeah, I just want to mention that you were the main researcher on the study that we done about World of Warcraft guild, the managers, and you were in high ranked. And as we talked a week ago about the returning of World of Warcraft Classic, I mentioned that I just find out with a lot of joy that Jax, the UK company, launch RuneScape. You can say RuneScape Classic, which is on mobile, and you can turn on with your account on your computer on the web, or you can start fresh. And for me, as player of RuneScape, it's really like retro to the MMORPG. Really cool.
And
it's not a gimmick, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the surprising thing is that with you would say normally that you have the audience, and the audience expects something, and the gaming industry need to deliver. Yeah. In this case, I would say it is the opposite, because suddenly you get people that have patience for you to learn. They have patience to group with you. They want to group with you. They communicate with you because they have to. There is no way to play WoW Classic if you want to play it by yourself. You won't be able to progress in any way.
Yeah, so it's like a RuneScape, likewise.
It's as if the gaming community presented something and the audience adjusted accordingly. And that is... For me, it was really shocking. Like I didn't expect it to be perceived that way. And again, I mean, it's only been going on for like under 2 weeks. Yeah. So we will see how that one progresses. But very enjoyable. I like it.
Why the companies are launching this kind of nostalgic game back in new form of maybe mobile or PC or whatever? What's the cause of it? Is it something that they're trying to reconnect with the fans?
In the core of it, you always have the conversation whether gaming company is a corporate, a business, or is it an art? And there is always this conflict. I mean, if you look at if you look at the pure business side, then I would say this is just a way to pull back the WoW fans and hopefully to get them hooked on the game again, and then see how they can earn more money out of it.
Yeah.
But if you have, and of course it cannot be pure art, because then it would just end up as an indie game or something.
Yeah.
There's always this duality. Now it can either go with odds against one another, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't, or it can go like as an harmonious progress. For example, the company I work with, one of the core beliefs is that they work only with customers that want to work with them. They do not accept customers who just come and say, listen, we want this app, we want this app, make it for us, and you have 6 months to do it. They don't. That's not what they're interested. They're interested about in cooperation, long term, in making apps that would live for years. And one of our oldest apps are 9 years old, which is quite an achievement, I would say, for apps.
Probably. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I guess we'll just have to see how that will go, because I'm pretty sure the companies themselves are a bit surprised by their...
So it's interesting general question to say, what make you go back and play? Is it, how do you say, good playing card? You know, in Hebrew you say, יש לו קלף מנצח. In Hebrew, you have a winning card. Companies that have a lot of IP, intellectual property of the game that already been developed, and now you can relaunch it and hook newcomers and also hook the ones that really miss the game. It's almost like in music, returning into nostalgic video games.
I think the reference you gave for music is quite accurate. I would say the generation of not my generation, but at least 5 years back, you suddenly start seeing people going into concert at their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Because my parents never went to like the pop concert of the 50s or the 60s, if there had been another round. But suddenly you have bands that show up after 20 years being completely silent and doing a comeback. And
a comeback, exactly.
A huge crowd coming to that to this event. So you see that there's like this reliving another period, like when you're older, suddenly you want to go back and listen to the same music when you were a teenager, or playing the same game that you played 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah, it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, great. It was really pleasure talking with you in another edition of Gameful Heroes podcast, how video games and people with gameful mindset shape our world. Ziv, thank you for being here. Really a pleasure. See you next time. Game on. This podcast episode is brought to you by Juloot Interactive, gamification and gaming consultancy agency. Start, play your life.